What is up, guys? Archon, I'm here bringing you guys another YouTube video. In today's video, we're going to be going over the Frost and Unholy changes for Shadowlands, as well as giving you guys my thoughts on like where they're going to fit and what spec is going to be viable. We're going to do something a little differently than we did in the Blood video. We're going to look at the baseline changes for each spec, and then we're going to look at the talent tree and kind of go over it that way. I should have done this in the Blood video. If you guys want me to redo that video and go over the baseline changes for Blood and then talk about talents, let me know down below. I will gladly go back over it for you guys. You may be curious about my thoughts. Anyway, let's look at the changes for Frost. Chains of Ice, baseline for everything now, baseline for all specs. Power Rune Weapon, rank 2, reduces the cooldown by 15%. Frost Strike, this is just two-hander math. Howling Blast, I think this is just two-hander math as well. Killing Machine, rank 2, your next Obliterate also deals frost damage. So right now I think Killing Machine just makes it a guaranteed crit. Whereas in Shadowlands, it'll also deal frost damage, which means it'll scale off of your mastery. So that could be an interesting build. And that opens up a lot of talent choices as well. A brutal attack, it's basically just two-handed math, I believe. Increases damage done by 20%. Increases strength by 10%. So I think Obliterate is getting a 20% buff here, is what this is basically saying at rank 2. And this increases strength by 10%. And Pillar of Frost is getting decreased in the early game. Once you get to rank 2, it's actually an extra 5% for 15 seconds, and each rune you spend while active increases your strength by an additional 1%. That's still pretty good. As for like why they're doing this, it's because DKs are now being positioned at level 1 for Shadowlands, whereas before they were starting at level 55, which meant that their scaling was okay because everything had been done at Wrath of the Lich King level for their scaling and their leveling. Essentially, you're starting at 1, and now you have to go through all the classic dungeons as a DK. They don't want you being too overpowered starting out. So that's why there's all this, changes to their power creep. Anyway, you still get a 5% increase on Pillar once you get it to rank 2. So that's the big thing to take away. Morse Winter, two-handed math. Increases damage done by 20% at rank 2. Obliterate has a 45% chance, and Frostbite has a 22.5 to cause your next Howling Blast to consume no runes and deal 150%. So again, power creep math. You get your extra 150 back once you get to rank 2. So there's really no change there. It's not really hurt. It's not really lost. So as for let's look at talents here. This will be the BFA board. And then this will be your BFA. You can tell by the levels over here, 15, 25, 30, like I said in the Blood video, and then 56, 57, 58. So that way you guys know what talent board we're looking at. Nothing changes up here. Nothing changes here. Nothing changes here. Nothing changes here, as far as I'm aware. Actually, yes, something does change here. Sorry. Frost Scythe changes. Frost Scythe, it's still the same damage, but it only hits 5 enemies now instead of whatever's in front of you. That's the big change there. Frostworm's Fury is moving baseline for Frost, so you guys will have that instead of having it as a talent. And what you guys are getting instead is Hypothermic Presence. Embrace the ice in your veins, reducing the runic power cost of your abilities by 35% for 8 seconds. Does not trigger the GCD, which is pretty big. Sorry guys, somebody's texting. Anyway, nothing else changes. Actually, there is one change down here. I lie. The change down here is that Ice Cap is going to be an extra second on the reduction to 4 instead of 3, which you wouldn't think would be that big, but in reality, it's actually a really big difference. Because what happens now, if you look at Pillar of Frost, it's a 45-second CD. Sorry guys, let me make sure he's muted. Anyway, so it's a 45-second CD with 15 of it being active, so it's technically a 30-second cooldown. What you can do is if you crit all of your, Frost Strikes or Obliterates during this time, so you need 7 of them because of how the GCD works. You lose a second to the GCD. You would actually come out almost able to use Pillar again off of the cooldown or while it's at 1 second or 0 seconds. So you could easily flow into it. I think they did this intentionally because if you get 7 crits, I think you need 7.5 and 15, which comes out to exactly 15. So unless you have Heroism up, if you have Heroism up, you can actually probably just keep flowing into Pillar if you constantly get crits, which is huge. So an example build I would go for maybe single target, I would try this because every single time you get a normal crit, You have a chance at getting a Killing Machine proc, which guarantees an Obliterate proc, which then potentially gives you a Rhyme proc, but that's not important. You want the Killing Machine procs, which then give you critical obliterates guaranteed, and you can go Frost Strike to try to crit and get this all the way down within the 15 seconds you have it up. And then the 1% strength bonus you're getting, I wouldn't reset because you'd still have Pillar up. It just reset the cooldown on Pillar. So there might actually be a way to just keep flowing into strength buff and just get like infinitely scaling, kind of like how Festermite works for Unholy right now. It's a theory build. I don't know if it'll guarantee work, but it's an idea, something I'm looking at. It's an idea. Outside of that, there's really no other changes for Frost. Like I said, the big one's the Hypothermic Presence, being able to cast, what is it? I think 6 Frost Strikes instead of, 4 or 5 is huge. Plus whatever you get back from the Killing Machine proc if you do happen to get one. Because what you would run in Frost right now, for single target, this is a theory build. I would not run this. This isn't the consistency one that you're going to constantly want to run. I think even Frozen Pulse might be better, honestly, here. But an Exonerable Assault is pretty good. Deafen myself there. Sorry, I'm in Discord with a friend. I'm going to deafen myself so I can't hear him anymore. So this is one build I would consider running. Obliterate with Murderous Efficiency, Avalanche instead of Frozen Pulse, because I think you're going to have so much Runic Regeneration back based on how many Frost Strikes you're going to get and how much that's going to flow into Killing Machine, which then gives you like an 80%, whatever. If DR is applied here, Diminishing Returns is applied, it's probably still up there, 70% maybe, probably lose 10%. But you're going to get runes back from using your Obliteration. They're going to be free, or your Obliterate, it's going to be free. And you're going to get a bunch of Rhyme procs as well. And this increases your Obliterate's damage too. So it kind of ramps it up a bit more. I think this is going to be your consistent single target. You could throw Breath in there if you wanted to. If you're going to throw Breath in there, I would go Icy Talons. And like I said before, for Icy Talons, it's more because I would think it's going to give you more Killing Machine procs, or more chances at Killing Machine procs off of your normal crits, which then give you more runic power. And Breath of Syndragosa with Hypothermic active only costs 10 instead of 16. And you pretty much can outgenerate the cost of Hypothermic, or sorry, the cost of Breath of Syndragosa using Hypothermic. You get 2 runes back at the start and end still, so you still get that benefit. So if you want to go Breath, this is the build I'm thinking you'd go for Breath. You could actually throw Frozen Pulse in there instead, because you won't be getting as many runes back off of Obliteration and Murderous Efficiency. You might still get them back off of the Death Knight passive, which gives you a chance at a rune based on how much runic power you're spending. Since you're going to be spending 10, it's not going to be as high. And if you're feeling risky, you could even weave in maybe a 20 cost or 16 cost Frost Strike in there too, give or take. It's risky, but it's still doable. I think there'll be a lot more room for it. Whereas now, if you're using Breath of Syndragosa, you're just mainly focusing on keeping runic power up. Plus, you're also going to get Empower Rune Weapon, giving you 5 over, I think, what is it, 15 seconds or 20 seconds? It gives you like 25 per second for the haste buff. So keep that in mind too. Honestly, I think Frost is looking pretty strong here. There's a lot of interesting builds to go. All 3 of these talents are actually viable for endgame, I think. Just looking at them with Hypothermic Presence, it definitely opens up, like I said, the theory crafting window. You could easily, like I said, flow into Pillar if you have a haste buff with Heroism and Empower Rune Weapon. I don't know how 2 hands are going to affect this, because Frost is getting 2-hand for the first time in forever. I don't know what's going to be stronger, 1-handed or 2-handed. I think with Icy Talons, 2-handed might be better because it procs off of your runic spending abilities, and I might be wrong. I think these attack faster, which give you more shots at getting the crits, but if you have a 2-hander, you're probably going to be dealing more damage with the 2-hander for the crits. So there's give or take there. It'll be interesting. I don't want to get into 1-handed versus 2-handed without knowing how everything scales. I don't have access to the alpha, obviously, and things are subject to change, guys. Keep that in mind when I'm talking about both of these specs. Things are subject to change. This is just the alpha. For all I know, the beta is going to be 100% different. Both these specs are going to be shooting fireballs across the screen. Be insane, but it's a possibility. It's Blizzard, who knows? Anyway, that's probably going to be it for Frost. Let's look at Unholy, shall we? Sorry, let's look over here first. Anti-Magic Zone is back, but it's only a PvP talent. Kind of sucks. I wished it was a, PvE talent as well. It'd give Death Knights a little bit more utility. But whatever. So rank 2 reduces the cooldown on Apocalypse by 15, increases the damage by 15. Chains by same thing as before. The big change here, or one of the big changes, is that Dark Transformation grants your ghoul 100% energy now when you use it. Right now, currently on BFA, you do not get this. So if you pop your your Dark Transformation, I was gonna say Hell Chains, but if you pop your Dark Transformation now, you have to make sure that you have the energy for it. So if you're running the Bursting Swords build, you want to be as high energy as you possibly can on your ghoul, so that way you get extra cleaves on the Dark Transformation over the 15 seconds, because each time it uses its claw ability, I think is what it's called in Dark Transformation, or that maybe that's just the baseline, or just what the normal ghoul has. I can't remember. Maybe it's some type of cleave. I can't remember what the ability's called, but every time he does it, it has a chance of putting infected wounds on the target if you're running that talent. This one right here, infected claws. So that's a big quality of life change for us. Death Coil is getting the healing back on it, and now it's going to be available to all specs. I think this is more of a PvP change. I don't really see any other spec using Death Coil outside of, trying to heal themselves through the Lichborn PvP talent. I think is what it's called. Lichborn, Lichbane, one of the two. The rank 2 doesn't matter. That's currently what it does in BFA. Death and Decay is going to be a specialization for all specs again. This is just basically what Death and Decay does now in BFA. Again, it's the power creep stuff. Increases the damage of your minions and shadow damage abilities by 18%. This is the big change. Our mastery is now affecting how much damage our minions do. So this is your army, this is your Gargoyle, this is Apocalypse, this is, the Skulker if you're running it. This is your ghoul. So all of your minions are going to benefit from your mastery. And mastery builds were already pretty strong on DKs, or Unholy DKs right now, since you get so much damage from Bursting Swords and whatnot, and Fester Might and all that fun stuff. I'm curious if this is going to offset the loss of having no Fester Might. I'm hoping that it does. I'm actually hoping that this does more for us because of some of these changes that I read before. So this is the part of the video where I've had to restart a couple times because I have to explain this correctly, the Outbreak Changes, and it's hard to explain sometimes. So if there's anybody in the comment section that can help clear this up, I'm going to explain it one way. If you guys still don't understand, maybe somebody can post down below a better example. But the Outbreak Changes, I'm going to read them first, and then I'm going to explain to you what the Outbreak Changes are. Deals 10% of attack power shadow damage, so that's still the same, to the target and infects all nearby enemies with the plague. So basically, they're getting rid of the miasma effect, which let you spread the plague by dotting one target, and then if he ran around near his allies, he would infect his other, the other people, and so on and so forth. So now it's just a flat dot. And the disease itself now deals an extra 2.5% of shadow damage over 21, and it will only erupt when the target dies, and it's no longer divided amongst nearby enemies, and it's 4% more than what it was before. Sorry guys, I've done this part a couple times. So I'm going to explain why they did this. The reason they did this is because miasma had a nasty habit of pulling other mobs if the mob jumped away or got feared or so on and so forth, and then your pull would get out of hand. Same thing with a 30% chance to erupt. If your group was just unlucky, the mob would erupt, it would cause AoE to everything around it, and it would pull everything. So it made it a bit more of a headache to bring Unholy DKs with you. I mean, their AoE is just untouchable, but if this happened, which it did happen frequently to me, Death Grip was usable, and other things were usable to keep mobs in place, so that didn't happen. But they're just trying to make the Death Knight class a little easier. And the two problems I have with this is, the first one is that, yes, the plague is a 21-second infection, but with miasma being on the target, it's actually a 27-second infection that you don't have to worry about runes. Or you don't have to worry about using runes for plague to keep it active. And it's also going to cost you 3 extra casts inside the GCD. Whether that be Death Coil, Epidemic, or, putting wounds on a target. Because now you're going to have to use that extra rune to now reapply plague. The big thing is we're going to lose a lot of our multiplicative damage. And what that is basically, I'm going to explain it to you through Bursting Swords. So for Bursting Swords, let's say we put 1 wound on 8 targets. So we lay down our Death and Decay, we Scourge Strike. It removes the initial festering wound damage on all the targets, and then each target will explode with a Bursting Sword. So the first target will explode, it'll deal 8 bursting wounds because it'll hit itself and the 7 other enemies around it. And then the next wound that got popped from the AoE Scourge Strike will pop. That's 8. Next one will pop. That's 8. And so on and so forth. So it's like proccing 64 times and dealing a lot of damage. Well, the same thing can be said about Outbreak and how it used to work with the 30% chance to erupt. You would put it on a target, and I'm pretty sure it was 30% over each target, and it wasn't just a flat 30% for the amount of time the plague was on all the targets. So what would happen is let's say you have 8 targets, your plague would go on the target, you would have a 1 in 8 chance of it going off. Obviously it'd be 1 in 8 because that's 1 target out of 8, and there's a chance for more to proc. So you'd have 30%, it'd go off, hit all of them, divide it amongst all of them, and you could have up to like 8 go off. If all 8 went off, it would divide obviously amongst them, and then it'd be 8 times whatever. So it would scale a bit harder. The problem now is that enemies have to die in order for the eruption to happen. And most groups are even cleaving, so odds are you'll just never see the 24% buff to your attack power. I mean, it's kind of like a little mini execute, I guess. Because when one mob dies, it has a chance to erupt, which then causes the other one to go off, which then, since it doesn't, divide amongst nearby enemies, it's hitting all of them for a flat 24%. But it should never become a thing where you have to worry about that because everything should die evenly in most groups. So, mixed feelings. That's why I'm trying to get across to you guys. Mixed feelings about it. I get why they did it, but I still have mixed feelings. Honestly, I would have just changed it to a 30% chance to erupt every time it deals damage. Instead of to nearby enemies, just have it deal the 24 flat damage to itself. I think that would have been a better solution. Now it kind of feels clunky. But hopefully you guys understood that math. If you guys don't understand it, if somebody can explain it better down below in the comments section, please do. It's not hard to understand once you understand it. It's just hard to explain how it works. Hopefully the bursting sores was enough of an understanding for you guys to get it. Anyway, rank 2 for Scourge Strike doesn't matter. Sudden Doom, your auto attacks have a chance to make your next Death Coil or Epidemic cost no runic power. So they're adding Epidemic to the Sudden Doom proc, which is nice. Honestly, I would like to see Dark Transformation be affected by Epidemic. I think that would make the rotation feel a little less clunky. But having Epidemic cost no runic power from Sudden Doom does have its uses in the form of AoE pulls, where you can run Army of the Damned, and it gives you a lot more time off of your Army of the Damned or your Apocalypse. I think it's like 4 or 5 cash you can get off with Sudden Doom, honestly, realistically, within the 100 runic power. So you're saving like 30 seconds on your cast, 30 to 25 seconds on your cast. So the Gargoyle is also going baseline. It's still the same. For every 2 runic power you spend, give it 1% increased damage. I'm curious if the Sudden Doom procs actually count as the original cost of a Death Coil, because technically Sudden Doom makes it free, so I don't know if it's considered cost 0 or if it still costs 45. Yeah, kind of interesting. So let's go ahead and look at the talents for Unholy, shall we? So nothing's changing in the first row. Everything's still the same. So Bursting Sores, the only change is that it's limited to 8 targets now. Ebb and Fever still the same, and I think with the changes to Plague, this is actually going to hurt the Ebb and Fever build a lot, because now you're looking at 10.5 instead of 16.5 for the refresh rate. So every 10 seconds or 11 seconds, you're going to have to reapply your Plague, and you're going to have to keep it on it, make sure it's active and up. I just think it's too much of a headache to deal with. The other big change is Unholy Blight is actually changing. So right now it's Swarm of Insects for 6 seconds, that's the same, but now it deals 98% of attack power over 14, whereas in Shadowlands, it's going to be 32.9 of attack power over 14, but it stacks 4 times, which means it goes over 100%, like 120%. So it's going to deal more damage, and your minions deal 5% increased damage to enemies infected or affected by Unholy Blight. So with the mastery changes, this means that your minions are going to deal a lot more damage, and especially Dark Transformation is going to be more valuable, because it's going to be able to cleave for more damage, as well as, the Unholy Blight itself dealing the damage it deals. So there's going to be interesting builds. Unholy Blight isn't going to be as bad as it once was, I don't think. I think there's room for it now. It might even overtake Ebb and Fever as maybe it may even overtake Bursting Swords, since Bursting Swords is limited to 8, like I said. Anyway, no changes here. This doesn't matter. Defile is getting changed. The only change is that it now increases in damage, and that's about it. It increases in damage every second. Unholy Pact is replacing Gargoyle. It's basically Hell Chains, and this deals shadow damage instead of fire damage, which is pretty big. And it also gives you an 8% strength increase while it's active. And as for Army of the Damned, that's just getting the Magus of the Dead baked into it. It still throws Frost Bolts and Shadow Bolts. Okay, before I was rudely interrupted by running out of space on my PC, thanks to Final Fantasy VII Remake, we were talking about the Unholy Talents and what was changing. I think I had just talked about Army of the Damned. Unholy Frenzy isn't changing at all. And we were going to, I believe, discuss talents. So for AoE, I think I would go Infected Claws. I'm going to Theorycraft first. We'll Theorycraft one build like we did for Frost, and then we'll go into what I think might actually be the top AoE build. So we'll go Unholy Blight, Soul Reaper, Unholy Pact. I like Defile. I'm kind of curious. This is a theory build, obviously. I'm curious about what it's going to do in damage, like how much extra damage you're getting on it. Because again, Blizzard is really bad with tooltips, and they don't actually tell you what the tooltip is. Same problem with Sudden Doom, not knowing what the proc rate is on it, or what the percentage is, which makes Harbinger of Doom that much harder to tell. Even it's 15% of whatever Sudden Doom is, but we have no idea what X is, so what's 15% of X, right? This is a theory build. I think this one could be pretty good. You could even opt out of Infected Claws. The reason I'm still running Infected Claws here is because that way you can still get wounds on a target. Even though you don't have Bursting Swords, you'll still get the Festering Wound base damage on everything that you hit. It just won't, multiply outwards. If you really wanted to, you could go All Will Serve instead for that extra 5% damage. I think that would be pretty good as well. For single target, or for AoE, what I think the actual build is going to be, Infected Claws, this, and then I think these two stay the same, or I think you'd actually go back to Epidemic. I'd have to see how much Epidemic is doing without Festermite. For single target, you're probably looking at this. You're probably looking at this realistically, and the reason why is because the extra 5% with the Scaling Mastery now on your minions, and you're looking at Unholy Frenzy, I believe. I think 20% more haste is going to be better than the 8% strength for 15 seconds that you get. I think that with the 5 seconds here is going to be, the 5% here is going to be huge, since your minions all scale off of haste and they hit faster, obviously, haste. So that's a bit more damage than what the 8% is going to be, I think, total for you. So anyway, honestly, I think Unholy is in an interesting place. We're going to go ahead and compare the two here, and then we'll close out the video. So Unholy is kind of in a place where I don't know if the devs exactly know what they want to do here. I guess they're giving Frost back the two-hander, so it's kind of also encroaching on Unholy. I think they're doing that mainly so that way the Frost players can just, get one weapon and be able to actually play the expansion rather than having to rely on getting two one-handers that the quests give you later on down the line. Not sure. But again, Unholy seems all over the place. I wish one of these talents gave you Epidemic affecting Dark Transformation. I think that would be huge. We're going to lose a lot of damage, I think. Especially when we have to choose between Hell Chains or something else. Whether it be Unholy Frenzy or Army of the Damned. Because Army of the Damned is still okay. On weeks where the trash is hard, you can still use it and, get enough Death Coils or Epidemics off where you can get your army back up before the boss pull. The Magus of the Dead really isn't that big of a deal, and the reason why is because Magus is only good right now if you stack the Azerite trait. We don't know what the base damage is going to be for the Magus, if it's going to be one stack of the trait, one Magus of the Dead trait, or if it's going to be 2 or 3. They are going to benefit from the mastery changes, though, so that will be pretty huge. The other problem is that the Magus are really only good right now if you stack the trait, I think, at 2. You have 2 or more. And you have Vision of Perfection, because Vision of Perfection, whenever you use an ability, basically, or a damage happens, or anything, basically, that targets an enemy, you have a chance at summoning a ghoul. Summoning Army of the Dead minions, which also summon Magus of the Dead minions. which is why you see Magus of the Dead deal so much damage, because Vision of Perfection procs so frequently for Unholy that you constantly have Magus up and they deal so much damage. So with Vision gone in Shadowlands, I don't know how much that's going to nerf the damage, if they're going to scale accordingly or any of that. That Best Might's still a big thing. We don't know where we're going to be damage-wise without that. We don't know if we're going to get a Covenant. I'm not sure if we're going to get a Covenant ability that covers some of this too. So that's the big question mark in the room too. Is it going to help us to, mitigate some of the things that we're losing? Hoping it's not like BFA where we just kept getting stat stick buffs over and over and over again until eventually we just became way broken on AoE. That's pretty much what happened. No abilities were individually addressed throughout. Just straight 15% buffs or 5% buffs to all abilities, to ghoul damage, to minion damage, and eventually we just got to the spot where we were. Blizzard really didn't go out of their way to try to fix any of these classes. So Unholy's still going to be the mess. The kit's going to kind of be all over the place. I'm hoping, praying that maybe in the beta we see maybe Unholy Pact moved here, and I guess Defile moved back down here, because I think Defile at one point was in the last talent row. It just wasn't any good. But I would love to see Defile moved with Unholy Pact. I think that would be huge. Honestly, Defile would be a dead rune, don't get me wrong, or dead talent, but it would be nice to have. It's just thoughts for the future. Whereas Frost right now, if you look at Frost Tree, sorry guys, I'm a very, very busy person, I guess, today. Hypothermic Presence is huge addition for them. It lets them use their runic power a lot more efficiently. You got to remember too, it's also going to affect Death Strike. So if you ever have to heal yourself in a fight, you can use this to also heal off Death Strike. I think it's 45 right now for Death Strike currently. So 45, times 5. So you're losing about 15.75 off the cast. So you're looking at about a 29 cost Death Strike, which is pretty good. Let's try this one more time. 5. So you're looking actually at a 13 cost Rune Strike. Or sorry, Frost Strike, not Rune Strike. That's gone. Rune Strike is gone. And as for Breath, dealing 16 times 0.5. So again, you're looking at about a 10 cost. It's actually, if you round down, it's 10. If you don't, then it's 11. About 10.75 or something like that. Cost Breath of Syndragosa per second. So Frost right now, I think will end up being the dominant spec. It's going to be the easy go-to spec for Death Knights. Whereas Unholy, while they do have a bit clearer talent board, I think, AoE and single target. Like I said, Frost you can run, there's multiple layers to Frost. You can go different builds. You can go the attack speed route and try to get more runes back, which then lets your Breath of Syndragosa last longer. Again, sorry guys. You could go Exonerable Assault, Obliteration, to deal more damage with your Obliterate. Run Avalanche, I guess, as well, because you're going to get a bunch of Rhyme procs from Obliteration. You could even go Ice Cap here if you really wanted to, and then go Icy Talents to try to get more crits on the Killing Machine like before, and try to just keep flowing into Pillar of Frost. Like, there's a bunch of different things you can do on Frost in theory that Unholy just doesn't have right now. I just don't know where we're going to be. I'm hoping, like, this right here, like, 8% strength buff just shows you that they have no idea. It's just, they're just throwing out a random number, it feels like here. An 8% buff, just whatever. Give them Hell Chains and actually make it shadow damage, and just give them an 8% buff, because it's not going to be strong enough by itself. And it's only 10% of our attack damage. I don't know. Unholy, I have to see it, obviously. Like I said, I'm just speculating with the numbers we have now and kind of comparing it while also thinking of what we're going to lose going into Shadowlands that really affects us. Frost realistically isn't losing a whole lot, I don't think. They're losing the Frostwhelp, which hurts their mastery and their damage a little bit, but at the same time, I don't think it hurts them enough. Whereas we're going to lose Festermite. We're getting our damage cut by a lot on big pulls, up to 8 targets now instead of what it was before, where you could pull like a giant mass, like 20 or 30 mob pull. And remember how I explained how Bursting Swords works? That's what, 30 times itself. So it'd be what, 60? No, it wouldn't be 60. It would actually be squared or whatever. So what would that even be? let's say you just happen to somehow get 30. It'd be 30 to the power of 30, right? Yeah, 30 squared. That'd be 900 procs. That doesn't sound right. Actually, yeah, it does. It does sound right because it's 30 and then it hits each mob once. Yeah, I think that would be close to being right. I don't know. I think it is squared. Again, let me know down below if I'm wrong on that. Anyways, guys, you heard it here first. I think Frost is going to probably be the dominant, easier to play spec for Shadowlands if everything stays as is and there's no major changes to the talent board or baseline abilities. Blood's going to be really strong as well for tanking. I've already discussed that. If you guys want me to go over the baseline changes, then look at the talent board again and kind of reevaluate. Let me know down below. Let me know down below what your talent choices are going to be for whether it be Unholy or Frost. If you guys disagree with me on Unholy being weak, potentially, yeah, just let me know. I like interacting with you guys. It's fun. Makes the videos a lot more worthwhile when we all get to talk and hang out. Like I said, I'm going to link my Twitch down below as well. If you guys want to come in and chat with me anytime, like I said, even if I'm playing a different game, feel free to come in, hang out, talk about World of Warcraft, and maybe you guys disagree with my videos and you want to like personally chat with me about it. I got no problem hanging out with you guys, talking with you, and being reasonable. Obviously, keep it reasonable, keep it respectable. Coming in and telling me that my opinion is just garbage and not giving a reason why isn't exactly what I'm looking for, obviously. Without having any personal, data to back it up or any, theory crafting yourself. Not looking for that type of interaction. Anyway, if you guys want to help me out and you have Twitch Prime still, I would greatly appreciate you guys considering using a Twitch Prime on my channel. I'm looking to update my emotes again. If you guys can give me ideas for emotes that you guys would like for Twitch, it always helps as well because right now I don't have any idea what you guys really would like, and it makes it hard to make them. I'm just kind of going off on what I personally wanted right now. But I'm always open to hearing what chat wants. I can make it the Twitch Prime emote for the, for a couple months or whatnot, and then swap it out with something else. Do like a poll. I'd like to do a poll on the Discord. If you guys want to join the Discord and talk there as well. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe if you enjoyed. Helps me out. Helps me know what content you guys like. Everybody else says. It really does help. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and head out of here. Have a wonderful day, guys, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Later.